Good evening and welcome to the May 22nd, 2012 Waterboro Board of Selectmen's meeting. If you'd kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any announcements? Okay, seeing none this evening, we'll move on to our appointments. And we're pleased to have with us tonight some students from the Massachusetts Middle School, along with one of their instructors, David Pope, will talk to us a little bit about their zero waste project. So, Mr. Pope. The podium generally the way.
All right, better camera angle.
Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you for having us here tonight. I wanted to share with you a little bit what's going on at the middle school with our zero waste challenge. It was actually a challenge put forth by Chewonki Foundation in Poland Springs, and the challenge is actually over. It ended in January, and what we did was we entered the challenge at the beginning of this school year. And the idea was to try to minimize the amount of waste that our school produces. And even though we recycle paper products for the most part, we still had a lot of room for growth and kind of to minimize the waste that we produce. So the students took on the challenge, and we had to write a plan that basically looked at 6 different areas. One of the key areas was recycling and being able to compost materials out of our cafeteria. So we actually have a pretty comprehensive plan that we put forth to Chewonki, and we were awarded third place in the state for the challenge. And so with that comes some money that we can spend and try to implement the plan at the school. So we've been trying to phase the plan in slowly since January, and we have some students who work our lunch program working on separating milk cartons and liquid waste and taking that out of the waste stream. The eventual goal is to be able to compost and get rid of our waste that we produce every day, about 65 pounds of compost. And so we had the students kind of crunch the numbers. They basically took 3 days of all of the waste produced in the cafeteria, and we sorted it, and then they weighed it. And it was quite an undertaking. And we had about 50 students involved from the Team Pemaquid, the 8th grade team. And they went through all the waste, and we identified that out of all the waste that we produced in those 3 days, which was about 630 pounds, only about 32% of that was actually trash that could be hauled away to Maine to be incinerated. The rest was either liquid waste, compost, or recyclables. And that was pretty shocking. And so we kind of crunched the numbers and were able to set up some bins that we can now separate our milk cartons, which you can recycle through Maine. And having the silver bullet that we call it, the recycling bin through Maine at our school has really been a huge help in making this actually possible. Because that's one less step that we had to worry about. Like, what are we going to do with all this recyclable materials once we have it? We were actually able to put it right in there and have it take away and have them take it away. So right now we are separating liquid waste, which is about 18% of our overall waste. To kind of give you an idea, we produce about 40 pounds of just liquid waste in our cafeteria. And again, middle school of over 800 students. That would go right into the trash can. And the janitors have said that they've noticed a difference just in hauling things away.
40 pounds a day?
Yeah, on average.
Okay.
Yep. And that's basically milk that doesn't get consumed, or water that's left in water bottles, or when students bring their own drinks in, that sort of thing. So they dump that right into a container, and we take that away, and we dump it and take it out of the trash stream. The other piece is milk cartons, and I have a student who made it tonight who can kind of describe what she does in this whole process, because it's kind of out of my hands now. I'm in the classroom while they're taking care of this during the lunch program, so it's worked out really well. But we identified that the school on an average year produces about 125,000 milk cartons that can be recycled. And that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 huge trash bags a lunch that we have, or for the 4 lunches that we have. And again, just by volume, that's a huge amount that goes into our dumpsters. So when you look at, I'm really anxious to see what our overall numbers will be this year. I think last year we had somewhere about 18.7 tons of trash hauled away from the middle school last year. So I'm anxious to see if what we've been doing has made an impact, although we've basically had this going on for about 3 months now, full swing. We haven't been taking the compost out, which is another 30% of the actual waste. We have no place to put it yet. So you can imagine we produce about 65 pounds of compost a day, depending on what the lunch is. And so that's just kind of a concern. We can't really compost it on site, and so that's another question: is there something that the town can do to kind of help out with that? It's something we don't want to leave out on the dock, for more than maybe a day. If we have some sort of container we can contain it in, that's kind of animal proof, because we don't want to deal with, attracting any animals or anything like that.
Okay, there's no place to put it. Is this the liquid you're talking about?
This is now, the liquid we can dump. We can take care of that. The compostable foods is basically our concern.
Is that meat included?
No, we would pull the meat out. So the numbers that we have, actually we separated all meat and everything out of that. So for those 3 days, we were looking at, mostly just bread products and anything else that you could compost, aside from dairy and meat. So that's kind of the big one, because again, that's 30%, and that's still going into the trash now. So if we could separate that somehow and compost it, that would reduce the numbers even more. And to give you an idea, that's about 65 pounds, a day. So we're looking at over 300 pounds a week, or 11,000 pounds a year, if you want to put it that way. So that's just compost. So there are a lot of numbers involved in this, but the bottom line is basically what we produce there is just only 30% of it is trash. The rest can be kind of categorized and taken care of if we have the support to kind of make that happen. But if you want to hear from Elizabeth, who kind of takes care of she's really spearheaded the operation in the lunchroom, and it's kind of streamlined that to make sure that goes on. And she's going to be training our 6th and 7th grade volunteers who are going to kind of carry the torch from her and the rest of the students that are doing that. So I don't know if you want to ask any questions, or if you want to come up and take the spotlight. She's a very brave soul to come today.
So do you guys have any questions, or?
Well, what are you doing? You said that you're taking care of the milk cartons.
Pretty much, I go in for one of the lunches and I help, I don't know how to say it, but have people go through the line, and I stand there at the milk carton container and tell people to take their trash out, if they accidentally dump it in, and I make sure the milk, the liquids get dumped after lunch, and that's pretty much what I do.
Now, is the final product there? I mean, if you have a bunch of milk cartons or juice or whatever, you pour the leftover liquid out, and then do you compact it, or?
No, we just put it into a container, and then the janitors take it to the recycle bins.
So have you gone before the school board and explained all you're doing and the benefits?
Not yet. The timing hasn't lined up yet. We're still working on getting signs and kind of streamlining the process as far as managing 4 different lunches with 800 students. So we're hoping to kind of get the compost piece in place before we really kind of come forward with our final product, but it happens slowly, so we recognize that. So we're going to target next year. And we're hoping that maybe there's the potential for kind of the students to kind of put together a kind of a model or an outline that can be adopted by the other schools, because it's a pretty significant amount.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Now, do you know if any of the custodians or anyone at the school goes to the dump on a regular basis, the transfer station?
From the school, not that I'm aware of, not on a daily basis, to be able to kind of get the compost, if we were to do the
Yeah,
composting
on a
part.
weekly basis?
Yeah, not that I know of. We don't have like a school vehicle or anything like that. Most of them do have trucks, you know, so you know, maybe something could be arranged. But I haven't spoken to them specifically, just knowing that they're pretty busy as it is.
Dennis, what is the average cost for a ton now for waste, trucking, and is it still $86 or $87 plus trucking? I mean, how does that work?
It's probably $112 a ton, something like that.
Well,
What about,
With the rates anyway, it would be up there. The composting, I think one of the discussions we had was, there is a local farm that is starting to commercially compost. And there was some discussion of whether or not we could engage that person, who's, I believe, a graduate of the M.R.S.A system, to pick it up. Because they're putting it into, they're creating commercial compost, basically. So
that'd be one thing. Another would be getting a bin right there beside the school and putting it in and composting there at the school.
They do make bins that are designed for schools and other facilities that are, you know, have cafeterias that serve about as many people as we have. They're in the tune of around $10,000 for the whole deal. They're called earth tubs, and basically it looks like a gigantic jacuzzi with a lid on it, and it, you know, you can stir it each day. And it holds about 4,000 pounds of waste material. So that's you know, an option, I guess.
I was just thinking, you know, there's talk about a community garden, and
Yeah.
you know, thinking, you know, if you get a community garden, you get the composter. Could all kind of work in there together, and
Absolutely.
there might be some more grants available to
Yep.
to get that equipment. Then the question is, if you get it, who brings the stuff out and puts it into the composter every day? Can a student do that, or is that a custodial?
As I understand it, and the research that we did with the plan is actually looked at those composters. It takes about 10 minutes for that to kind of do that cycle, with,
Yep.
you know, because you got to turn them, and it can be done by pretty much anybody. There's no, you know, reaching in and dealing with any kind of turning blades or anything. It's just a walk. You just walk around the outside with a handle, and that's it. So everything's covered up. But you know, ideally, you know, before any kind of funding or anything like that might be secured in the future, we still have all this compost.
yeah.
that
There's
we
some
love
students
to-
with a little extra energy. You could just say, oh, you know, take 10 minutes, go out and
Yeah.
stir the compost.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, in numbers, if you had each school doing this in the district, I mean, you're talking significant savings. But you're not only talking savings, you're talking education. And over the course of a generation, tremendous amount of value here. And the material could be used in our communities, you know? So, I mean, I think we need to work together here and really brainstorm and explore as many possibilities as we can to become a example for what communities can do. You know? I praise you and the kids here. I mean, this is a tremendous endeavor, and it's sort of under the radar, but it is extremely important to our future. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we look forward to see. I guess I should add too that Chilwaukee is working on a potential challenge for next year, which they're hoping to incorporate, I believe, those who participated this year to see how close to your plan can you stick, and what kind of numbers can you generate. So we're kind of looking forward to that too. So
when you've worked in the cafeteria now, do you kind of feel like going around and patting someone on the back, drink up?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't think this young lady was introduced, was she? Name?
Well, I'm Elizabeth Clock. I live in Lyman.
And there are about 50 students who are involved, and Elizabeth has stepped up every time and volunteered to kind of be in the hot seat and take some difficult roles, and so I appreciate the hard work that she's done too. So.
When you indicated you placed third in the state, how many participants overall?
I don't know. We just received a call saying that we needed to be in South Portland with 3 other schools, and then they were going to tell those schools what their placement was. I think when they all said and done, I'm guessing maybe around 20 or so. It might be less. I'm not exactly sure. They didn't really tell us. But they're hoping it's going to kind of gain some momentum and kind of trickle out to some of the other schools. So.
Now, does EcoMaine have anything for students' assistance, Dennis? Do you know? I mean, do they have anything?
Well, in fact, there's been some discussion relative to, this whole project, but it's been really on the peripheral of anything. They're not directly involved because it was really sponsored by Chewonki, and I'm trying to remember who was the other.
Poland Springs.
Poland
They
Springs.
did, yeah.
Poland Springs, I think, had the money.
Yeah.
Had Eco talked about the food process? Was it
There's
the
a lot of discussion, not a lot of
action?
actual action at this point, but there is. Kevin is going to send out 3 or 4 articles a month relative to what municipalities are now doing, and I think the latest one was Portland, Oregon is now committed to recycle 75% of their waste stream, which a big piece of it is going to be food. So, but there's nobody has said this is where we're going with it at this point.
Do you have any further questions?
No, other than, I think, what time was involved, and granted, there was a lot of time involved with the students, but, when you really look at the snapshot, which is really what this was, right, in time, there's a huge benefit to taking it across all of the schools if you do that. But I think the real missing piece is the compost piece of it. How do we handle that much compost, especially if it went to the high school and any other schools, would be significant in the course of a week. And that really becomes, if you can take 1/3 of the waste stream out just by doing that, that would be a huge gain. The other piece of that is when you look at compost articles, the weight of compost articles versus the weight of just plastics and recyclables, it's a significant difference.
It just seems if you could get, if the paper could do an article and to say, here's the next step. Here's we are asking for people to come forward with ideas of composting, and maybe some people come forward and come up with some ideas and maybe some money too.
Just kind of a side note on that. Actually, the reporter came out yesterday and talked to the students and interviewed them and took some photos, and they wanted to kind of continue kind of keep track of this and where it leads. So they were interested in finding out a little bit more about what might come up tonight and how we end the year. So
This is just such a great example of a school of 800 students can look at recycling and look at the tremendous impact that you're going to have financially. And I think it's a shining example for the residents in the community who choose not to recycle, because look at what a school of 800 can accomplish. And if everybody in their little households of 2, 6 people, if you can put the effort into it and make it successful, then we should be able to have our residents do it too.
Yeah.
So I think a wonderful example.
and hopefully it will trickle out from the school. So.
Now, Pat, could the recycling committee transfer station connect with this farm that we know about the food stuff and see maybe?
I think it's a great idea. I think we should put some feelers out into the community and see like John said, you know, who might be willing to come forward and help us with the compost component, 'cause that would be a huge savings.
Okay,
So we'll tackle that issue.
good.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you coming tonight and enlightening us, and thank you very much, Elizabeth, and keep up the good work.
Great work.
Thank you.
I think a round of
Thank you.
applause.
Oh, that's pretty sharp.
Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening is a public meeting to discuss the Old Alfred Road Sidewalk and Drainage Design Project. Before we actually get into the substance of this, I just want to let you know that if you're unable, if anybody out there viewing tonight, if you're unable to be present tonight, and you can pass it around, I understand there's a school meeting that's going on at the same time, so it may take some people away from this meeting. But you can either email or call the town hall and ask to speak with Tom M.R.S.A, the town planner, and you can forward any comments that you might have to him, and they will be included with what was on here this evening. Okay. Tom going to be officiating this, you know? Tom, are you officiating this on the Old Alfred Road sidewalk?
Wright Pierce Engineers are going to do a presentation for you. Yes. Travis Pryor, who's setting up, he's a project manager, project engineer, and he'll be giving a presentation to the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator tonight.
I've got the slide PowerPoint presentation up here, so we can just shoot that from here whenever.
Okay.
That'll project over here?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got it on this computer already too, so.
We don't have to use these, so we have hard copies. Just load it right up, I think, it's ready. Travis Davis. This is Travis's presentation tonight. John?
While they're setting up and getting things passed out, I'd certainly like to say hi to those folks that I know that live along Old Alfred Road. Mrs. Bogren, Mr. Powers, this gentleman here I don't have the pleasure of knowing, but maybe we'll find that out a little bit later this evening.
Where's the best for me to stand or be heard?
Well, generally, we have people stand at the podium, if you wouldn't mind. If we have the camera angle set up for that.
As far as advancing the slide?
Yeah, just tell me next slide and I'll make it for you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to work on your sidewalk project on Old Alfred Road. My name is Travis Pryor. I'm a landscape architect at Wright Pierce and project manager there. And I have Christine Reinhardt, who's our project engineer, assisting in design on this project as well. I have a brief presentation to give tonight, and please feel free to interrupt me at any time and go a little bit over background. If you go to the next slide, please. Some of the design considerations that factor into this project, both from an engineering perspective at our office as well as DOTs and general ADA compliance as well, and then talk a little bit about project process and schedule going forward. For those of you who may not be familiar with the project area, we're going generally from Friendship Park to the entrance to M.R.S.A Middle School. And we're looking at the westerly side of the road. This project is part of the town's overall goals recently identified in some of the planning efforts to improve pedestrian safety and walkability along Old Alfred Road, connecting Friendship Park, and as just mentioned, the M.R.S.A Middle School. The project is being funded through federal transportation enhancement monies. Those are administered through the Maine Department of Transportation. They have what's called a locally administered process, and through that you went out for an RFQ to select us as an engineering consultant. And you have town staff as well who are working on that project. It allows a little bit more local control than a DOT highway project. We're still communicating with them and adhering to some of their design specs and standards. Some of the typical design considerations, first and foremost, in pedestrian safety. Public input is very key along the project area. Compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act standards, impacts to private property. So far, we are working entirely within the public right-of-way. Parking at Friendship Park, and coordinating that with the Little League activities that go on there. Storm drainage in the area. I know groundwater table is fairly high. We've been out there with Doug Foglio and walked the site and seen what has been implemented to date and gotten his thoughts on the project and how that will coordinate with storm drainage. Matching existing grades and tying in to relatively flat grade out there at the site. Project budget, you've been allocated money up front for the design process to start, and then the town applied for an overall budget for construction on the order of about $300,000. And so far, it's a very preliminary estimate, but we're coming in about those numbers. Utility coordination, we send out letters to CMP and telecom and data folks. There's no public water and sewer along this stretch. Unfortunately, most of the utility poles are on the opposite side of the road, so we don't envision impacting too many utilities as part of this project. Maintenance considerations, what the town has for equipment, factoring into sidewalk width, materials and durability, and ditching, and so on. And then compliance with any regulatory agency requirements, usually environmental impact reviews. I'm going to talk about this, show one section of the project and a few existing photos and a typical section. Again, feel free to interrupt me at any time, or we can go back and forth as you like. This is where the project is going to begin or terminate on the southerly end of the project. This is an entrance to, there's some basketball courts out here as part of the rec field complex. And when we start heading north, we're maintaining dual entry ways into the parking lot here for the baseball field. Currently, there is on-street, or there's kind of double parking in here. I think folks and some commuters park right along the road. We're talking with the town about some schematics for how many parking spots you could fit in this field area here for overflow, for events, or for some temporary parking there. And then we're providing or allowing for this parking to exist here and room for vehicles to back out and then leave the site. That's what the existing conditions look like. There's a 11-foot travel way out there with a 1-foot paved shoulder, and then anywhere from a 4 to 8 foot wide gravel shoulder. This is the current parking we're talking about. As I understand, this is kind of overflow parking lot, or some commuters share rides going to work in this area. It's mostly occupied during the daytime hours. And then there will still be another row of parking along the front of the ball field here. There's some existing storm drainage in this area that outlets behind the ballparks on town property, and we're proposing connecting into that. Next slide, please. This is what a typical section is proposed to look like. You maintain your existing travel way. We're going to neaten up or tidy up the gravel shoulder, so it'll be about 4 foot width, plus that 1 foot paved shoulder for total shoulder width of 5 feet. I think a 6 foot wide swale. We have about a foot of relatively flat grade lawn coming off the sidewalk, so you don't drop right into the swale. And then an under drain system connecting into what Doug and the town had built out there in the past, with a crushed stone or French drain, if you will. That'll help with not only surface water, but picking up some of the groundwater, keeping that from infiltrating under the roadbed and under the sidewalk, and so on. And a 5 foot wide paved parking lot, paved sidewalk, and a relatively flat grade transition back into folks' yards. And that's yes, sir.
What would happen with snow on that swale there, snow and ice during the wintertime?
It will sit in there. and then when it can melt and move, it'll get into the drainage system. We're proposed catch basins at every driveway along the way. I'll show those in a second versus a driveway culvert. And we did talk about that versus curbing and a paved shoulder. You need to clear the snow off all the way up to the curb and then clear it again off the sidewalk. And some of the recommendations from the town staff were that they prefer to have it plowed into that swale. We have pretty accurate right-of-way information. Fortunately, the town has some really good records with previous subdivisions and the school when that was put in. Our surveyor picked up property pins out there. It all ties in pretty neatly along here. It's a 66-foot or 3-rod right-of-way. From the center line of the road, that tends to follow the center line of that right-of-way pretty true. So the back of our sidewalk is anywhere from, say, 3 or 4 feet to about a foot or so inside the right-of-way. The items in red are things that we have identified as potential conflicts. Most of those are signposts or mailboxes. There are some landscaping, some daylily beds. There are some small arborvitaes that were put in here recently that we believe can be relocated to the back of the right-of-way. And there's, I don't know if there are any on this, there's, I think, 3 utility service drop poles. And the main line is on the other side of the street, but those may need to be moved a foot or 2 to get those out of the sidewalk. Here's an example of some of those shrubs that would be right, within a foot or so of the back edge of the sidewalk. They're fairly young and they should be able to be relocated. Next, please. Here's an example of some mailboxes and some fencing that would need to be relocated.
Now, are those items inside the right-of-way or on their own property?
They're all inside the right-of-way. And I believe the town is working with DOT right now on upgrading the road and maybe accepting ownership of it, but it's currently owned by DOT. And they would require, they'll fund removing those outside of the right-of-way. They won't fund resetting or replacing them. It's an issue to consider. Some of these mailboxes, we'll talk with the post office as well, but we were proposing relocating them similar to how they are on the other side of the road, where there's a fairly established ditch and closer to folks' driveway aprons. It's a little bit easier for the mailman to get out and park in the end of their driveways and gain access to them. It's an example here where a sign would need to be relocated a few feet back. You want to keep it at least a foot off the back of the sidewalk, so when you're clearing in the winter, or if somebody's biking along, it's not a fixed object that they might run into right up against the sidewalk. Similar conditions throughout really all of the project site. We're going to be maintaining existing driveways. There's a couple I want to talk about that we recommend narrowing up a little bit for pedestrian safety, but we do anticipate talking with the butters and meeting with town staff again as many times as needed throughout the final design process. And just another example of this. The project's literally and physically straightforward. It's really similar physical conditions. There is enough grade, fortunately, coming up the hill that we can run under drain the entire length of the project area and still discharge it behind the Friendship Park.
Back on one of your other slides where you had that mailbox, was that just to show that there is going to be mailboxes along there, or is that actually going to be the position of it? Because I can see a wing of a plow just taking all those.
Right.
Yeah, I can see the wing just taking that right off.
That's where it exists now.
That's where it exists right now?
Right.
I thought most of them are back beyond that.
This one back here is, they do vary out there. And that one, all those little red dots that we have on the plans, they're all pretty much shown as a conflict. And we would recommend that, again, at the end of the day, they're all going to be located near somebody's driveway.
Maybe just the angle of the photograph makes it look like it's pretty close.
Yeah, no, that one is closer on the other side of the street. They're all set back about, this is close to 18 feet when you get to the center line of the swale. Most of them are 19 or 20 feet on the other side of the road from what we measured. We're not proposing moving any of them closer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's overlaying and showing a few conflicts where these things hit with this typical section. Yeah. Thank you. Go to next slide, please. And there may be, there are very few trees as well, mature trees that are in conflict on this project. There will be some limbing, just to clear them to a height of 8 feet. It's a standard clearance height if somebody's on a bicycle or something like that and biking down the sidewalks. Okay. This section, there appears to be an active garage with a dump truck out here. I'm not sure exactly which business it is yet. We're maintaining their existing driveway apron. Next slide, please. Next one. This one, no, that's not it, is it? Is this the one, Christine? This isn't the concrete one. Okay. There's a few utility poles like this, again, are service drops for connecting across the street that are going to be about a foot or so in the sidewalk, and usually those can be moved relatively easily, but we're doing what's called a utility coordination process. We send out some standard letters with the designs as is right up front, saying, hey, do you have any plans in the next 5 years to update any of your utilities? We can coordinate with that with you. If there are more significant conflicts along the way, then we'll usually have an on-site meeting with those utilities, and during final design have another utility coordination effort as well. This area, the red represents some daylily beds and Rugosa Rose. We anticipate talking with these folks in particular a little bit more. They have a existing concrete driveway here that is not shaded, and then it expands over for a three-bay car garage. And there's some RV or campers parked next to their house. So it's some fairly informal paths across the front of the lawn that are gravel and some lawn, where it appears that they've been used to driving right out in that area with those vehicles on a temporary basis or periodic. As it is, we're going to propose about a 50-foot or so wide driveway apron, which should leave, or does leave, maneuverability for them to still get in here and get those to the back of the yard. But we want to hear their concerns if we put a swale in front of this portion of the lawn there. We would prefer not to have about a 100-foot or so wide opening there from a pedestrian safety standpoint, but and talk with any butters' concerns going forward here as well. This is that section here. This is actually concrete and covered with sand right now. We propose cutting a clean line across here and repaving this in and cleaning that up and creating a break line somewhere in the middle so the water will shed off of there a little bit better. And then we approach the end of the project at the M.R.S.A Middle School entrance. And this is their existing walkway here at the project. There'll be a crosswalk across the street we'll connect to. That's the only crosswalk we're proposing at this time. There is one existing down at Friendship Park as well. We will connect to that. We're just leaving that one as is. We're not relocating it. Okay. These are the same design considerations we talked through before. Just have them here for reference, so I don't have to go back 15 slides. Are there any questions about design or additional ones design-wise at this point? It's easy. Yes?
Who's going to be responsible for mowing in the swale area?
Excellent question. I'm not sure how the town is, or if you guys have discussed maintenance for this project going forward yet or not. If you got any?
My initial thought that would be a function of the Department of Public Works, but we're fortunate to have the road commissioner with us this evening. He may want to address that, I don't know. He may have some thoughts on it himself.
Well, so far, the state has told us that when the time comes that they turn this over to us, they're gonna retain ownership. We're gonna be scheduled to do light maintenance. I guess that's open for interpretation. Right now, the highway department doesn't do any mowing, but, if it's required here, I mean, I would think that as we move forward and we come to the new, if the charter change goes through, and all the changes that is, then there's going to be a part of the public works. It looks to me like it's gonna be part of the public works. It'll be up to do the groundskeeping. So I would think that would fall into that category.
You know, to me, it looks nice, green grass looks nice, but that's not gonna be green. I mean, it's gonna be 6 inches of sand on that come April. Is there nothing else besides grass you could put in there that'd be more usable and worker-friendly?
You can certainly pave a wider shoulder. That's going to be limited to about 8 feet for a maximum that DOT would allow. And you could get into on-street parking if that's something that the town, but I don't believe that will fit within this project budget.
I just don't see grass as being realistic, functional.
Most of it should follow within a foot or two where that existing gravel, that break line is with the gravel and then folks' front lawns. So you're absolutely right that some of it may accumulate in there. It does, at least so far, appear to be functioning okay and providing for lawns in the area.
It's just a lot of work. I mean, the sand is
Salt.
horrendous. I mean, it's work.
It is.
It's not worth it.
We'll have a fairly minimal slope on your pipes matching what's out there. Water will get out of there. But any sand that gets in those catch basins, we're proposing sumps so that the pipes don't clog up. Those will require some routine, usually annual clean out, any sand that collects in those. That would be similar even for a driveway culvert as well.
Any other questions?
Yes.
On the street parking, will there be any parking on that side of the road at all, or the whole side of the road be no parking? I mean, it looks, kind of cuts into the...
Right, the section that we're showing now would not provide room for on-street parking. It's only about a 5-foot shoulder. You ideally need 11 feet so that you have about 8 feet of vehicle width or 7 feet and then 3 feet or so to open your door without opening into oncoming traffic. Yeah, we're out in the traffic and home. Didn't see evidence that folks park along the road out there too routinely.
Not regularly, but
Sometimes.
usually people do.
Now, I'm very naive when it comes to costs, but you mentioned a cost of $300,000 for this project, approximately. I mean, that's mind-boggling. I mean, what is involved here for $300,000?
About a third of it's storm drainage, and then about 2/3 of it is the construction of the sidewalk. That's about right. Those numbers.
Yeah, pipe, probably one of them.
Might be a little more than a third, 40% or so storm drainage and 60.
So how much more storm drainage are we looking at here? I mean, are we talking the whole length of the sidewalk is going to be under drained? And that's approximately how many feet?
A little over 2,000, I think we have. We've seen pictures that came out in the wintertime, and we've seen some recently. There's a lot of ponding in folks' yards there.
So this takes care of all of the drainage issues along that stretch of Old Alfred Road.
It will at least pick up what's coming off the road. You know, if stuff's puddling beyond it or lower depressions out in folks' yards, and we are proposing under drain, which should help pull down some of the groundwater level and help with that. But it may not fix everything in everybody's front yards that was beyond the sidewalks.
That's one of the biggest issues I think we wanted addressed in this is, you know, we've come a long way in the past 18 months with addressing some of the drainage issues that we have on the opposite side
Yep.
on some of the subdivisions over there. So now, you know, we kind of need to shift our focus the other side of Old Alfred Road. So that's
This would be a big improvement I could see cost-wise, and then talking with DOT, they so you could do a net-grade sidewalk with no drainage in this area, and it would function. But I think given the level of ponding that is going on in folks' front yards and not wanting those sidewalks and to heed, that they'd be willing to entertain or consider putting in an under-drain system to protect not only the roadbed as well, but the sidewalk also.
you're proposing asphalt for
Yes.
the sidewalk
Yep.
versus cement?
You can certainly do that, or concrete. The indication we're getting from DOT as they're trying to spread their money around is, we know asphalt's, it's about 3 or 4 times less expensive, and they're trying to stretch their dollars, so the difference between the two would have to be paid for by the community.
Now, how large a diameter are we talking on under drain?
15-inch for most of it is tying into an 18-inch system.
Is there any figures on what the maximum capacity of water that could handle if we had like a major storm or something?
We do have some HydroCAD programs and other stuff that we work with, along with standard stormwater calcs that we'll get into and confirm that the pipe size is adequate for the
Okay.
drainage area, but we haven't run those numbers yet. We'll kind of nail down or make sure we're meeting the intent here in the preliminary design process first, so the community's needs. And
I think you're gonna take care of the drainage from the road to the sidewalk, anything south of that. You're not gonna drain water uphill, right? So,
No.
it's, even though it's slightly uphill.
Right, it's not a big
Once
drainage area.
it clears that sidewalk area, it's whatever it is.
Yeah, if the groundwater is saturated, at a certain point, the system can't handle it, and the water's above that, and the pipe is full, it'll be getting some water out of there constantly, but in those conditions,
Road Commissioner?
If you back up to the slide that showed the entrance to the school.
just a couple slides back.
Yeah, I think it was.
That one there?
Yep.
Or the one before it?
Before it, I think. I thought I saw one that indicated a pipe going across Old Alfred Road. Did I?
No, we have a
Crosswalk.
crosswalk going across there on the.
Yeah.
At that intersection of Hannah Drive and the entrance to the school, how deep down is the pipe gonna be below the center line of the road? Do you know?
Where the pipe stops about here. So we'll have a swale picking it up to the catch basin at that last driveway where the concrete is and where the RVs are parked on the side yard.
Well, as we
At this
talk-
point, it's going to be about 2 feet, or 1 foot of cover under the swale, about 2 feet of cover under people's folks' driveways.
Because that's still, you know, as long as that side of the road up there from the school continues to flood,
Up in, this area.
that area right there where we discussed it out there,
Yep.
as long as that continues to flood, we're gonna have serious problems. That water needs to go somewhere. That's, I mean, when that gets up, so as you get into where that road splits, goes into the school, that, the water will come right over the road there. It has on 2 separate occasions. And, you know, when that happens, you know, there's just so much infiltration of groundwater that the houses on both sides of the road get inundated. I mean, the water sets there too long before it dissipates. So, if you change the pitch on the pipe before it, like you told me, you know, you could probably gain another 2 feet of pitch.
We could certainly propose that. I think DOT may raise some eyebrows with them, trying to pick out a significant additional drainage area up here and discharge it behind the Friendship Park. We'll certainly aim for that as a preliminary design goal.
Well, I mean, that's my only concern with what I see here, is that we have that water over there that the school doesn't do anything about. I mean, many people believe that they are a cause of some of the problems we're having there now. And I just wondered if that could be addressed, and we could, you know, respectfully request that they put some money into this project, means they have a $30-40 million budget.
That may be the comment from DOT. We can certainly present it. And I don't know if you've heard my comments. We present connecting to that. We are pretty shallow here, but we'll look at that again and lowering the pipe and talk with Doug a little bit about the slopes. We're carrying some fairly minimal slopes. but we can lower it a little bit more.
Well, it's just a shame to, you got a problem, and you're within 100 feet or so of the issue, to not address it somehow.
This is a significant change, just like the school project may have been a significant change in the past, it'd be a significant change to what you're outlining behind Friendship Park at this point. We'll certainly present that to DOT, and not that it's a significant change, but just that it's a following the extent of the project out across the crosswalk there. See where it goes. Any other questions? Go back one more slide, please. I'm sorry, you can go forward too. If there aren't other questions, I'm going to talk a little bit about process and schedule going forward here. We had a kickoff meeting and then walked the site with Doug in April. We initiated a utility coordination effort this month. We've gone and performed a detailed topographic survey and tied that in with the existing town boundary survey plans that they have on record from various subdivisions out there. We're having our public presentation. Our goal is to get preliminary or draft alignment. We didn't hear feedback necessarily about the trail layout too much here as far as that changing, so unless there are any objections, we're going to present the plan as is with the opportunity to extend that under drain a little bit further, hopefully connect to the school's drainage system, and fire that off to DOT for their initial reaction. Pending any significant comments from them, we'll look to submit a preliminary design report to them, which is about a 50% design completion during June. If they accept it by the end of the month, back and forth, and it appears to come close enough to their budget, then that allows you to be eligible potentially for the rest of your construction funding for 2013. We then have the rest of the year, where we're proposing wrapping it up in the fall. The DOT has said even through next spring, we'd like to wrap it up in 2012 to complete final design and utility coordination.
Now, is the wording right? Is there any drainage from the school? You said to extend it drainage to the school's drainage. I don't think there is any drainage here, is it, Doug?
There's a detention pond, no formal subsurface.
Okay.
That basically was never a detention pond. That was a,
It's wetlands and
no, it was a gravel pit.
that's right.
It was a gravel pit, and they, they filled in part of it, and that's what is brought this to the attention of a lot of people. They believe that they took away a water storage area when they filled in over probably more than half of the gravel pit. And then they blasted some ledge, and then they filled in another area behind it. But the area that you see that fills up with water is just the old gravel pit. And now they've run more drainage into it, and it doesn't have the absorption capacity to take care of it.
Can you go back to the very beginning, Dave, maybe a second slide or third? It's an overall map of the project area. Yeah. So this is currently where a lot of the water ponds that we're talking about. And the goal will be to put a pipe out here. It'll be a little higher than the bottom of that wetland area, likely coming across there, but it should still be 2 feet below the road grade, so any overflow potentially get into that.
So this $300,000 is potentially coming from the state and federal, or is this totally local?
You're required to do a 20% match for your grant for this project.
What is that?
But at this point, Dave, we're not obligated to put in for the construction grant.
No, I know,
They
but I
got at
think
least the
the
plans.
public needs
It's
to know
20% for the engineering.
the understanding here that we're not just going out and spending $300,000, that, it's, people are gonna go crazy.
Did you say, I didn't hear, did you say 20% match?
Yes.
From town, 20% to 80%
Yes.
state? Okay. $60,000.
Which to me would be a good deal.
The drainage issues, I mean, the sidewalk, my personal opinion is the sidewalk is kind of the bonus. It's the drainage issue that I think really is what we're looking to get addressed here.
Even though this grant is intended for pedestrian improvements, they go hand in hand, so they're eligible costs. So from that standpoint, we're fortunate that sidewalk can help pay for some drainage improvements.
We have to get very creative in now the ways that we're getting money to do projects these days. So
Everybody does.
This is a creative means of accomplishing that.
It is. And if at the end of the day, they say you can't connect across the street, we're still going to consider sizing for something like that, so that in the future, if you get funds to say cross the street on your own, or if you have to bid that separately, we'd make sure that the system is sized to accommodate that. Haven't had those conversations in detail yet with DOT.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, with the exception of not being able to correct that problem at the entrance of the school, I think it sounds good. But I agree with you that it looks like it's within grasp, but the money just doesn't seem to be there.
We'll see. I think one of the only fortunate things, I guess, about the state of the economy is, other than asphalt, which keeps going up, and gasoline prices, is that construction numbers have been coming in well under. We used a 10-year average from DOT's estimates for projects over the past 10 years, as well as all the projects that we bid as a company. It's been a pretty consistent trend over since 2008, really, that most of the bids, somebody has come out of left field, if you will, and bid 30% or so under project budgets. We're not guaranteeing now, we're being conservative with our estimates at this point, but
what's being left out of this if the figures are relatively the same, but yet the price of asphalt and gasoline are going up? I think something on the part of the contractor would have to be taken out of the mix in order to compensate for that, if the numbers are relatively the same.
that most of the other bid items or paid items are a decent amount less, that whether they threw it into a mobilization cost, for example, last time, or traffic control, or site demolition. I've seen a lot of pay items that are well under budget. But asphalt and pavement has gone from $50-$60 a ton up to $175 on some projects, or $200 a ton in the last 5 years. But gravel, all that stuff comes from, say, $40 to $30, or your pipe price goes from $70 down to $55, or it varies from project to project. And depending on the contractor, if they're local, they may have an advantage with a certain amount of gravel. Or all the bids are a little bit different, but we try and take averages from them. And the only item that we've seen continue to increase is asphalt lately.
I don't know if this is a question for you or maybe Tom. I'm trying to recall, with these grants, was there the opportunity for in-kind labor, materials, etc., to be put forward as part of the cost that the town would incur?
The answer to that is there is, and frequently that'll come as a potential change order when the project is put together, and depending if it's a local contractor versus a contractor from the way. So there is that opportunity. When the initial calculations were done, they were based on some MDOT figures from some past projects, and that's the formula that was used to arrive at the numbers. But there is, in all likelihood, there's a way that you can be additionally creative and tighten the figures if necessary.
Nothing further? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
I'll leave you the full-size set of plans as well, too, so any follow-up questions, you can contact us through Nancy or Tom or Doug.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's another gentleman that didn't have a chance to sign in yet, too. Is it the gentleman in the blue hat?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
That's another question. I mean, I probably should have asked him, but I didn't really know, wasn't sure it would involve him. What about if the residents of the Old Alfred Road, if they decide to bring water down that road, where would the piping to the homes, would it go under the swale thing, or?
I heard that. Water's typically area, we recommend minimum 6 feet of depth for water. The bottom of the underground pipe's going to be about 3 feet down, 3.5, and then you usually insulate.
Okay, I just didn't know what it would involve. Digging up sidewalks and,
Your water main will usually be out the shoulder of the road, right along that line edge. You could either jack under those sidewalks, around 5 feet, and not disturb them or
Thank you.
cut the main.
How's that? No, ask whatever you need to ask. That's what the purpose of the public hearing is. You know, if there are no further questions, then we'll move on with tonight's meeting. The next item on the agenda is the hearing of delegation. Is there anyone present here this evening that has any business before the board that they'd like to bring up at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our correspondence. This week we have the treasurer's weekly financial reports. We have Representative Libby's newsletter. We have RSU 57 Superintendent's report on the proposed budget. We have a notice from the Maine Historic Preservation Commission that Waterboro Grange number 432 has been entered into the National Register of Historic Places. And we have a memo from the 12-town group regarding their May 21st, 2012 meeting, which was held at 6 p.m. If anybody is interested in viewing any of that material, they can find it on the town's website. And if they don't have access to a computer, they certainly can stop by the town hall and see the administrative assistant to the town administrator or the town administrator, and we'll see that those materials are made available to you for review. I'll move on to reports and staff initiatives. First, we'll have the Selectmen's report. Yes, Tim.
Attended the 12-town group meeting last night. Greg Zinser from the county manager was the guest speaker last night. Went for just about 3 hours, and he provided a lot of very good information, and there were some very good questions that were asked. Probably one of the most important discussions that we had centered around the county going to a fiscal year that runs, like many municipalities, a July to June fiscal year. The reason that they have decided to go to the July start of the fiscal year is that under their current format of going January to December, tax bills go out and they're not getting paid from the municipalities until the October timeframe. And that's based on state statute. They have no control of when the tax bills go out and when they collect payment. It's set by state statute. So what's happening is those first 8 months of the year, they don't have enough funding to cover that that part of the year, so they're having to take out tax anticipation notes at a cost of interest to carry them through until the fall when they get the tax payments from the municipalities. So they, that and along with the jail, because the jail is on a fiscal year because of the state funding, they're also having to run 2 separate audits every year, one for the jail and one for the county. So going to a fiscal year starting in July is going to save money on the audit. So then it becomes a matter of what's the transition going to be from the municipalities once they kick in. What's going to end up happening is we're actually going to get 2 bills from county. They're going to have to break up and have a 6-month budget, which will cover from January to June 30th. We'll get a bill for those 6 months. That'll be half of our annual bill. And then we'll get a second bill that's going to cover from July until June 30th of 2013. Because they recognize that that's going to be a hardship on municipalities. They're offering 2 different methods for municipalities to pay those tax bills. The tax bill that's for the full 12-month is anticipated or expected to be paid as usual. But what they're going to do with that 6-month tax bill is they're going to give towns the option of either paying it all in one lump sum or going on a 5-year payment plan. If the town opts to do the 5-year payment plan, then what happens is we have to pay interest occurred on that, and the interest would be whatever the tax anticipation note is that would have to cover that amount of money. They said right now, the workings that they have on tax anticipation notes, they're paying about 1%, so they expect that municipalities would have to pay 1 to 2% interest. If we opted in year 2 to finish paying off the whole amount, then we could, or we can carry it out through the 5 years. They're going to get this buttoned down a little bit more as far as timelines, and Nancy should be getting a notice from county what our options are and when all of the timing is going to be. Brought up some of the positive things that county government has done in the past year or so. Talked about the government center that's now open in Alfred. There's a building at the county jail that has been vacant for 10 years. They've now entered into an agreement to make it a transitional house for women, and it is going to be leased by the state for the sum of $70,000 a year. And what the state is going to pick up all the maintenance and utilities of the building. There's some maintenance that needs to be done that's going to cost about $180,000. The state is going to pick up that entire cost and the cost of all of the utilities. So the county sees this as an absolute no risk to the county. All the risk for the structure is being passed on to the state, and the county will always be guaranteed to have at least 5 beds in that facility at any given time, which has the potential of saving the jail money because they have a very low female population. They may only have 1 or 2 females at a time. They may have as many as 30. But when they're at a point where they only have a few females and they could potentially be in the transition house, it could effectively allow the jail at times to close the female pods and save some money. So he is very happy about that. The sheriff had some documents in there. He's promoting contract deputy program, promoting some of the work programs. If we have maintenance work, whatnot, that needs to be done, but we don't necessarily have the funds to do the project, we can talk to the sheriff about potentially getting some work crews from the jail. And the other thing that the sheriff has thrown out, and this is just preliminary conversation, is partnering up to do ACO work. State law requires that municipalities have an animal control officer, and so the sheriff is looking at potentially partnering with some communities to have a shared animal control officer that works through the sheriff's department. It would eliminate towns having to get calls for animal control officers. Everything would be filtered through the sheriff's department. So we're actually going to look at having the sheriff come into the 12-town group meeting next month and maybe talk about what his ideas are on the ACO program. And I know based on some of the conversations we've had this year about the cost of ACO, it might be something that's worth us looking into. The county's also going to be looking into contracting out IT services. This is a pilot project. I found this kind of amusing because during budget talks, one of the things the county really that the county manager talked about was they don't have enough people to do IT work. They got half a position in the budget, but now they're looking at taking that half position and farming it out to other communities for a fee. You know, we're fortunate we have an IT program, but it's something that we're going to probably be seeing some more information on coming down the line. We had some discussions about the jail funding. The state is pushing the county to reduce the cost of the jail. But even though the jail has reduced their budget already, the county is still required to pay the same amount of money to the jail. So we're on the hook for $8.6 million. Next year it drops to $8.3 million because of the building loans that'll be clearing up. But even if the sheriff is able to drop the budget so that he can run that jail based on $7.5 million, we don't see any of that cost savings. The state gets to keep that money, apparently. So the county is going to be working at potentially looking at some law changes so that if there is some savings to the counties, that savings is actually seen within the county instead of the state getting that hunk of money from us still. So, very good meeting. I think we had 8 towns represented last night.
There was one other piece that I found fairly interesting too that was mentioned, that the county is asking towns if they want to invest or lend the county money, in which case the county needs to borrow money to make payroll, etc. The town would get paid at the rate that they would pay it for a bank. So in a sense, the towns that lent the county money would, for, I don't know if it would be for 4 or 5, 6 months or something like that. If the town had the extra money, they would get more on their larger return on the investment than they would by investing in banks. So I think that was kind of an interesting piece.
And they said they have 2 communities that are going to be doing that with the county, going to be loaning the money to the county, with the county paying them back with interest. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out and work out for those 2.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say which cities because they're still negotiating, but they said it was 2 larger cities, not towns.
So the county naturally has to offer more than what the ordinary investment would be. So.
Is that in lieu of anticipated tax loans?
Yes, instead of taking out a TAN with a bank, they would take a loan from a local municipality, and instead of paying the interest to the bank, they would pay the interest to the municipality.
The same amount of interest or a reduced amount, or?
That's being negotiated.
There really should be somebody record these meetings because I think there's a book offering in the coming years for all the twisted ideas that come out of this county government.
It was recorded. Dave was able to walk me through getting the equipment going, and so it was recorded, and it will be available. Dave's going to make it available on the web, so if anybody wants to take a couple hours, just sit and watch through the meeting. It'll be available.
So it'll be like the checks in the mail?
Yes.
So we can go on a 5-year plan, pay them interest, but we can loan money to them to get interest back. Any other selectmen have anything to report? I know that most of us were at a meeting last night with the Charter Commission where we went over the proposed document that they've been working on for quite a long period of time, and that's going to be coming up for public hearing fairly soon. So you want to be watching for that so that you can have your input and see what's going to be going on there. It's a fairly comprehensive document.
And it's on its way to legal review. It was sent today.
Okay.
So that part's done.
All right. Nothing Nothing further from the board? And the town administrator's report.
What I have is homework for the board. You will be graded on it at annual town meeting.
Not in red.
I got the finance committee recommendations today. So you have a copy of the warrant with their recommendations. You have a copy also of the appropriation budget spreadsheet and a memo from the finance committee along with their revenue source and their breakdown, a spreadsheet to show their recommendations versus the warrants. So I have all of that, each one, and we'll have to have it on the agenda next week to finalize the warrant. And there's, come back up. There is also on the back of the warrant, there is,
I got one.
you got one already?
We got two.
Two articles pertaining to the LD. You'll have to decide which one you want to use, the traditional one or the other one that we can add, what the LD one override is to our base for the next year.
Is there an option to ignore it altogether?
Yeah, that could be. I guess that's up to the boards.
All right. Anything further?
That's all I had. I had the charter, you covered that.
Okay. The chair of the finance committee unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening, so we're going to dispense with that. On the treasurer's report, we have the weekly financial reports that were in our correspondence. The other item is to discuss and vote to approve the code enforcement officer's order to correct violation for tax map 19, lot 35. Mr. Mitchell, you have the floor.
Surprise!
Good evening. There's a failed septic system on Pearl Street, and the owners of the property have asked the town to consider replacing the septic system, and they will repay the town through a special tax. I believe over a number of years with a 12% interest rate, which is in the ordinance town charter somewhere. Apparently, it's been failing for some time. The owners of the property contracted with Kenneth Gardner, who is a well-known and very highly respected soil scientist and septic system designer. He has come up with a 5-bedroom system design that will handle up to 450 gallons per day. And it should work. He's a very good soil septic designer.
Is this the parcel that we had some communication on where there may be some conflict with the butters?
Yes. There's been some chatter about that, but one abutter won't let the homeowner go over their property to get to the backyard. It's a very narrow lot, so the only way to get onto this property to repair the system is to cross over someone else's land. There's 2 abutters there, and one won't let anyone go over their land, so there's one way onto this property and one way out.
Now, has it been established that this party cannot afford to do this?
I guess my question, which goes to your point, is that we're going to vote on whether to issue this letter, which then says they have 10 days to fix the problem. So are they already saying that you can give me 10, you can give me 20, you can give me 30, I can't fix the problem? Or
they don't come to me with that issue.
Okay.
That's
But I mean, what you're asking us tonight to do is to approve the municipal, this order, right? This abatement order, I guess is the way.
I think they are asking, I'm not asking the board to pay or finance anything. What the process is, the code enforcement office goes and finds a septic system that's malfunctioning under Maine law. We need to, as a plumbing inspector, we need to get it fixed one way or the other.
Okay,
We
understand.
order,
But
okay,
the
I'm
order
sorry.
says that they're ordered to fix this within 10 days. You know, and if they can't fix that, then the municipal officers or any person that they appoint as their agent may enter the land, all right? So I guess the question that I have is that, have we already gone past, I mean, we still need to issue this order, but it appears to me we're already talking about the town going in to fix this thing.
I think right now we're at the procedural level. I think
The resident has had contact with somebody to
Right,
say,
right.
I can't afford it. But where would they have gone, Nancy? Would that have been through GA originally? So it's just, who did the homeowner say, we can't afford to fix this problem to? It's kind of
I
where
guess
we're
that's where I'm at.
getting
Because, I
at.
mean, we wouldn't out of the blue just issue this order without the code officer asking us to do that. So my assumption is that you're asking us to issue this order for, order that issued by the municipal officers pursuant to the powers conveyed, right? That the property has an on-site storage disposal system that has been found to be functioning as a threat to public health and safety, right? So our vote here tonight is to issue this order,
Which is,
which, understanding that that could lead to the municipality being involved in replacing the septic system. Right?
Do they have 10 days after we enact the order?
Says they have 10 days to remedy the situation.
It seems like if we approve the violation order, or to correct the violation order, we're placing them almost in a no-win situation if there's a property conflict where nobody can get onto the property to do the work anyway.
Then the house gets condemned and they have to move out.
What do we do
What's the
with
next
the
step?
public risk? Because as I understand it, this stuff is bubbling on the surface, is that correct?
it's on the surface of the ground.
Okay, so it poses a health hazard, whether they're living there or whether they're not. It just
Well, no.
means if they're not living there, they're not adding any more to it,
Well,
but the problem's still there.
well, it would go away rather quickly with, if someone moved out and there was no more flow in there every day, it would just sink into the ground.
I think we're in a precarious position on this one, only because the order is very specific. Forget about access to land. The order says you got 10 days to remedy this. If you don't, the town may go in and remedy it for you.
That's the key word,
Right.
may.
However, if we do that, you have an obligation back to the municipality for payment, right? Doesn't say that in so many words, but that's what the state statute says. So when we issue that order, we're signing up for the fact that if you either fix it or we're gonna go in and fix it because it proposes a public risk to the or health risk to the public. Now, if we can't get access to that property, that's another dilemma that says we can't fix it, you can't live there.
There is one way onto that property.
So that's and I guess, I don't think we have any choice but
I don't
to
think
issue
you have a
the
choice.
order. And then we have to cross the bridge when we get there on whether or not that there's accessibility to fix the problem, but.
If the town goes in and does the project, can the town put a lien on that property?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So it looks like, if it's a health risk, we gotta do something about it. first of all, we tell them to do something about it, they don't do something about it, then we do, and then we take step by step that needs to be done.
The ordinance has it that the town goes in and fix it. The next time the tax bills go out, there is a supplemental tax bill that's specifically for that. They pay once a year. They can pay, it's 12% interest up to 10 years.
Okay,
If they don't pay, it's treated like a lien, and a lien is put on it.
okay, good.
Mark, can you tell me if this is the property? Am I looking at the right
This is the property.
property?
I have an issue with the being here and no one knows what the financial situation is. I just don't feel the town steps in and fixes something because somebody needs something.
Well, I don't disagree with you, David. However, the town has the obligation to protect the health and safety of the public. With that comes the fact that we issue an order to the landowner saying you have 10 days to remedy this. If you don't, then we have the right to go do it, because our obligation is to protect the health and safety of the public. So it's not an automatic of, well, if they can't afford it, we'll just go do it. I think the issue is if they don't do it, then we have to take action.
By signing this is, though, we don't automatically take action. That's
They have 10
that's
days.
another decision, depending on what they do.
Or don't
When
do
you,
it,
when
yeah.
you issue this order, it says that we have the right to go do it. It doesn't say we're gonna do it. So my put is that if this order goes out, they come back and say, we don't have the wherewithal to do this, then we have to direct that it gets done.
Or not get done.
Well, if it not get done, then you have the other issue of, are you willing to condemn the house?
Yeah. If we can't get in there to do it, then we look at the possibility of condemning the house and moving people out. So, yeah. But one thing at a time. The first thing is if it's health issue, we got to do something about it. You get the 10 days, and if nothing is done there, then now the ball's in our court, and we make a decision as to what we do, and they step up to a reimbursement plan or allow us in there. And if they don't on either one of those, then the next step is eviction possibly. But one thing at a time. The first thing I think is the major issue is health. We got to do something about it.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the code enforcement officer's order to correct violation for tax map 19, lot 35.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the code enforcement officer's order to correct violation. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Discuss and vote to reschedule the May 29th, 2012 executive session. Have another request in writing because of a court appearance by the party involved, that the date that we selected was not tenable. So there's a request being made to change that. Rather than keep going back and forth, I had our administrative assistant check some dates, and what we determined that outside of June 12th, all other dates are open with the exception of June 4th, 5th, and 6th, which the town attorney is not available for those dates. So is there a date either prior to the voting on June 12th? Or do we want to have it after that time,
How about
the 19th, or are you going to take a separate night?
the 30th?
Yeah, that would be about the only date that would be available.
And we can't keep putting it off.
June 30th?
No, May
No,
30th. Doesn't have to be on a selectmen's meeting night.
That's a Saturday. May 30th, hold on.
That's next
Okay.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
That's fine with me if it's fine with everybody else.
What's the date?
May
May
30th,
30th.
Wednesday night.
That's, 6?
Do it as early, we can do it early. I think it would, I think Dave's the one that, what time do you get into town? Or he does?
I wasn't planning on getting to town on that night. But, getting the big box, I guess I'll be here.
What do we have
Wednesday, I can be here by 4:30.
28th is a holiday.
5?
What holiday? I thought that was on the 31st.
No.
What's on the 30th? Is that not gonna work?
Then why couldn't we do it on the 31st then? That's actually Memorial Day, isn't it?
I'm with you.
You're not here, okay. All right, so is the 30th acceptable? At what time? 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock, okay.
Okay. So then the chair would entertain a motion to reschedule the date of the executive session to May 30th at 5 PM.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to change the date to May 30th at 5 PM. Any discussion?
Yes. Could we add possibly to the motion that this is the last time that we'll reschedule that? This is the third time, and this needs to get done.
I would like to have that, but I don't think that if there is a legitimate reason, I don't think that any reviewing authority at the labor board or the court would.
Well, you've got a list of dates
Well,
that
could
the
we at
person's
least
available.
express our feelings that this is, I agree. I mean,
Yeah, I
tired
certainly
of
think that we can
changing
word
my
I can word the
calendar.
letter strongly enough so that we want to make it happen that night
right.
without boxing us in. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the date change? Opposed? Motion's carried. If you'd be so kind as to prepare the next set of letters and then notify the town attorney. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and vote to approve the renewal of a malt and Venus liquor license for the Blast from the Past Incorporated at 114 Secocas Trail. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to do so.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the renewal of a malt and Venus liquor license for Blast from the Past. Is there any discussion on this?
Just to note that the inspections, as we're required by the CEO and the fire department, have been done.
No other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, there is no other old business. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the warrants for bills and payroll.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the warrants for bills and payroll. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. The chair will accept a motion to accept the minutes of May 15th, 2012, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
So moved. Second.
Pick one.
It's been moved and seconded twice to accept the minutes of May 15th, 2012. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Pending decisions, the public service announcement, I believe that's already airing as we speak.
Correct. That should be in the rotation.
Okay.
Could I, on that too, suggest that we start in on the transfer station next and ask if there's any fellow selectmen that want to host that?
Yeah, I'll do that with Pat and Clint. We'll come up with something.
Okay. I'll talk with you. I get some ideas on that. Okay.
He's trying to be a
Then If you
producer.
have the ideas, then why don't you do it?
Getting into the,
We'll
Hey,
talk.
since I've picked this project up, so I'm expedited as much as possible, but it would be good to have another selectman hosting that, but I got a few ideas.
All right.
the chair will designate you as the executive producer of this function.
You want to learn how to run a camera too?
Yeah, you can be the, what is it, the best boy?
He's the creative one.
Yeah. The driveway ordinance,
Still working.
still working on that. Board and committee status, that still remains to be a difficult task. We have 2 vacancies for the Fair Hearing Committee, 4 vacancies on the hiring panel, 1 vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 vacancies on the 2020 Master Planning Committee, 1 vacancy as an alternate on the Planning Board, 3 vacancies on the Parks and Rec Committee, 2 vacancies on the Conservation Commission, 7 vacancies on the Economic Development Committee. Currently, there are no members at all. And the same is true for the Public Safety Committee, in which there are 9 vacancies. So if you have any interest in any of those committees, you can certainly feel free to drop by the town hall, and our administrative assistant will give you an application, and we would certainly love to have you join the team here. The Water District Office lease, space lease.
David was in today and I asked him about it. I gave it to him and apparently he lost it, so I'm gonna give him another, I'm gonna take it over directly.
Maybe we ought to send a certified copy with a return receipt requested or something. The Internet and Electronic Mail Policy Revisions, that's still being worked on.
Yep, we have the, David, Nancy, and I are gonna sit down next week. We've all kind of put our ideas together and then just finish it off by putting it in a format.
Oh, I thought it was this Thursday.
Next Thursday. Oh, wow.
Last item is regarding the barriers to prohibit vehicles from driving on the public beach. As I understand, that's been referred to the Conservation Committee.
Yep, we have the first meeting on June 7th.
Okay. Week's action list. What are the things that we need to do? We need to prepare those letters and so forth on that executive session.
Review the warrant.
Review the warrant for next week, and that's an agenda item for
I think
next
that's
week.
gonna take us
Take us
quite a
long.
while.
Yeah.
I think we need to, the other thing we need to do, if not next week, here in the very near future, we're getting towards the end of the year, we have some revenues that haven't come in,
Right.
but we've got expenditures, so we need to look at the budget, see if we're gonna have to move stuff around, and if we're gonna have to stop some spending, so we're staying within the budget.
Didn't we have that already scheduled, don't we?
It hasn't been definite, it's on my list of things that
Oh,
have to
okay.
be scheduled, but it's probably, the warrant's probably priority at this point, because you have to get it done by May 29th. So I
Right.
don't know if you want to do that on the same night, or do it the next,
the following
next
week.
week.
Yeah, the fall.
The policy that we voted on says that there will be a 4th quarter review no later than the 15th of June. So, even though the fourth quarter isn't done, it says that we should, which would give us presumably 2 meetings to resolve any issues.
All right. So we're going to be moving on now to the reminders.
And I'm just gonna add to the fourth quarter review, where this one is so important, and the department heads have been told, no, be very careful that, make sure at least, make it mandatory, or at least somebody is there from the department to represent them.
And I would say that has to be every department, because we may need to stop spending in one department to fund another.
We shouldn't beat around the bush on this. Let's make it mandatory, have a letter sent out to all the department heads indicating their presence is mandatory, yeah. At that
So
meeting.
And that they come prepared to talk about any risk that they see and any opportunities that they see. This isn't just a report. We can read the numbers.
Yeah.
It's not what we want to hear. We want to hear about, hey, I have a real problem that may come up. Like, people haven't submitted their time yet for call.
June 15th is on a Friday.
And you can do it, we
You
can
wanna
do
do
it
it on the
earlier than that.
12th?
Yeah, I would say that we do it the 12th.
Of June, isn't that voting?
There it is.
Yeah.
Why can't we do it on the 5th?
I think we can do it anytime we want. It just says it has to be done by the 15th.
Yeah.
No later than the 15th.
I'd say the 5th, so we've got a couple of weeks to jump stuff around if we need to. Hate to see us wait till last minute.
Yeah, but I think that Nancy has the ability right now to, I would hope that we're looking at areas that should be curtailed.
So June 5th, Christina. Anything further?
I do have a question. Would you do the fourth quarter review and the budget transfer things the same night?
Do we want to have reports that night from the contract deputy, or what do you want?
I think it's a night we should just
Give
focus
them a
on the
pass.
budget.
I
Yeah,
think
we should just,
all-
we should cancel all those reports. Or postpone them to a less encumbered evening. All set? Our reminders. Wednesday, May 23rd at 6 p.m., the 2020 Master Planning Committee will meet at Central Station. On Thursday, May 24th at 11:30 a.m., the senior luncheon will take place at the Snowmobile Club. On Thursday, May 24th at 6:30 p.m., Old Home Days Committee will meet at the Old Town Hall. On Saturday, May 26th at 8:30 a.m., the cribbage tournament will take place at the Old Town Hall. On Monday, May 28th at 6:30 p.m., the Transfer Station Recycling Committee will meet at the Old Town Hall. On Tuesday, May 29th at 6 p.m., the Selectmen's meeting will be held at the Town Hall with a report from the 2020 Committee. On Monday, June 4th at 7 p.m., the Charter Review Commission will take place at the Old Town Hall. And Tuesday, June 5th at 6 p.m., the Selectmen's meeting will take place at the Town Hall, and we will dispense with the reports from the Contract Deputy, Fire Department, and EMA. So if you could send them notice on that, Christina would appreciate it. If there is nothing further, the Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn for a workshop with the road commissioner this evening.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the business meeting this evening and conduct a workshop with the road commissioner. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried.